Another day, another Boston sports scandal. This one brought to us by the Red Sox, the Yankees, and the New York Times, which reported yesterday that the Yankees filed a complaint 2 weeks ago claiming that the Red Sox stole their opponent's signals and then relayed them to players on the field with the help of an Apple Watch. The Times report says the Red Sox ultimately acknowledged their skullduggery, but then filed their own complaint claiming the Yankees used a camera from their TV network to steal the Red Sox signs as well. With a big fat mark on Boston following Spygate and Deflategate, however, the nation does not seem to be letting Boston slide on this one. When we hit the streets today, we found that how you feel about Boston's latest sports scandal probably depends on where you're from.
I think there's cheating in all parts of baseball, so I'm fine with it.
Well, technology, everybody's stealing signs today. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it happens in all sports.
When you start going to using technology like that, it just tarnishes the game. Takes everything away for what the game is, supposed to be about.
We traveled up from Philly for this.
So just how grave is the Red Sox crime, and what's the line between intense competition and dirty tricks? Joining me to discuss are former sports anchor Chris Collins and Dan Leibowitz, Executive Director of Northeastern University Center for the Study of Sport and Society. Good to see you both. Thanks for being here.
Nice to be here.
So how big of an ethical transgression is this, if everything that's been reported holds up?
It's pretty big.
Yeah.
It's pretty big because of all the stuff that has happened, all the stuff you just mentioned. You know, there's a history of, you know, obviously they're not related. The Patriots and the Red Sox aren't in cahoots against all professional sports. But when you put one thing on top of another, it paints a bad picture when you're outside of this region. I mean, we've all lived it. You know, you leave New England, boy, you hear it. You know, you hear it early and often. Cheaters, 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 despite all the winning that has been going on. The thing about it with baseball is, you know, always had a history of stealing signs. That's part of the gig. But, you know, there's a very strict rule written right in that technology and using technology to steal or do different things is a complete no-no. And that's for a good reason. You can't have, you know, because every team could have it, 900 cameras looking at each coach and 900 people in the back deciphering all the codes. Every team could do that. And really, what would that do for the game? It would create an incredible mockery of what the game stands for.
Would that really create a mockery of the game? One interesting take that I came across today, I was in the Washington Post, can't remember who wrote the column, but they made the argument that baseball needs to figure out where it stands when it comes to technology. That you've got, you know, the guys in the room right off the dugout studying monitors, looking for material they might want to use for instant replay challenges, and then you've got this little space in the dugout where everyone needs to act like it's the 19th century. So do you agree with Chris that would be the game?
You know, Chris and I have been on a lot of shows together, and this is one time where we're probably not going to agree. I don't see it as a huge scandal. I see there's an evolution to everything. There were different eras in baseball, right? There was the heavy drinking era, the heavy greenie era, the heavy steroid era, right? But baseball
Juice balls here and there, right?
Baseball has evolved and evolved really well. I think that they're a front office that's extremely proactive around policy issues like domestic violence prevention and other things. I think that they were proactive in making a statement about the integrity of their game here. Having said that, this is against the backdrop of stealing signs as part of baseball has been part of baseball in the 50s and the 60s. And so as evolution happens and sort of technology happens, just like it's happening in our shadow economy where people are being replaced by robots, certain things happen in that evolution. And every organization, whether it's Major League Baseball, the Red Sox, are trying to adapt sort of on the fly. There is a bylaw that says that you can't use technology, but there's also probably an undercurrent that stealing is a wrong thing to do, and yet all of this happens in sports. And when I think about the backdrop of Deflategate and other things, a number of quarterbacks across the league said they play with the pressure of the ball.
Right.
And you know, Aaron Rodgers, who arguably is the second best quarterback in the league, says he likes the ball overinflated. And so I think that what you see is this region has been so successful, so many championships, you know, in the baseball arena of recent, after so many years of a drought, in football, 5 championships for the Patriots, in basketball where, you know, we had the big 3 hanging a banner, and then we're starting to have a really resurgence. I think that what you're seeing is a lot of one of the 7 deadly sins of the Bible, and that's envy. You're seeing envy from a lot of different arenas, and I think that the couple from Philadelphia sort of is exemplary of that.
Let me go through the mechanics here, because I want to make sure I understand them correctly. And I also want to try to shed some light on this Red Sox counterclaim, which still strikes me as a little fuzzy. So the Sox allegedly had their instant replay personnel looking at these screens, finding signs, relaying them to the assistant trainer who was wearing the Apple Watch, who then passed them on to players who were in the dugout, who then passed them on to players on the field.
Correct.
Do I have that right?
Absolutely.
All right, so what are the Red Sox saying the Yankees did? I know they've said they were stealing signs with a Yes TV network camera, but I'm not clear on how those signs were then allegedly distributed, the way I am with what the Yankees have claimed.
I don't think they're clear.
Okay.
You know, it sounded to me like, okay, you're pointing the finger at us. Well, they did it first.
Right.
You know, and that's something that didn't come out until...
Yeah, it's like what my 7-year-old does.
Well, yeah. It's not an excuse. And that's the same excuse the Patriots were using, right? Just the same one you use. Well, everybody does it. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people may do it, but if you get caught, you're still doing it, and it's wrong.
The Sox also said that I think this was a Comcast Sports New England report that they believe that the Yankees are trying to mess with them. I think that's almost a verbatim quote. And apparently one of the things the Yankees did, I think we have a picture, I hope we can bring it up. Yeah, they claimed that the Sox pitcher, if I have it right, was wearing an earpiece, and it turned out he had his mouth guard hanging on his ear. So they complained about this. There's something that almost feels a little infantile about some of the back and forth.
Well, you're in September, right? You're in September, and we have a pennant race between two of the greatest rivals in the history of baseball, right? You have a Red Sox organization that I just gave a lot of credit to Major League Baseball for the number of things they're doing proactively in social active spaces. You know, John Henry came out this week, and I think, is making a statement about Boston and the history of racism in Boston.
With renaming Yawkey Way.
Renaming Yawkey Way. And so, there's parts of the game, and I'm not dismissing, it isn't that I'm putting it on a larger platform and saying everybody does it, let's dismiss it. I'm saying that these things have been part of the game for a long period of time, as in everything. People are always looking for an edge. Sport is a microcosm of society. People look for an edge in business, and you see VW getting caught and a variety of things happening around. This is sort of the world we live in. There's baseball, football, basketball, the sports landscape is about competitive nature. It's about looking for that edge. It's about winning that championship. It's about those things. What I see about this is it's kind of been overblown. In many respects, the way Deflategate was overblown. And I think that you have a really responsible organization, the Red Sox, and a responsible organization, Major League Baseball, and a rivalry. And I also think the Yankees are a responsible organization.
Chris, you wanted to hop in before Dan conveniently omitted Spygate.
Well, you really have to separate the two from, the front office, which amazing down in Foxborough, amazing down on Yawkey Way with all the things you just mentioned, but has nothing to do with what's going on in the field. What transpires on the field between the players and the manager, the field manager, and the coaches, and the trainer in this case, has nothing to do with the social active consciousness of upstairs.
To that point,
understand that.
Does it pass the smell test, John Farrell's claim that he was unaware of this? Is that
No, of course not. Just like when Belichick says he's unaware of something, it doesn't. These guys, they're good. They're the best in the game. They're the best in the business because they do micromanage. They know everything going on around their team. You can't just go rogue.
If you're doing your job, you can't be unaware of this. Hold that thought for just one sec, Dan. I want to get some sound in here of Michael Schmidt, the reporter who broke this for the New York Times, has broken an incredible array of huge stories in sports and elsewhere. He told WEEI today that the Yankees are convinced they have lost games because of what the Sox have been doing. Let's take a listen.
Cashman is very, very unnerved by this. He thinks that the Red Sox have cheated the Yankees out of wins here. He thinks that the Yankees would have won more games against the Red Sox this year had they figured this out sooner.
Schmidt also said, in I believe his Times report, he thinks this is probably going to end up with fines being levied. How do you see this playing out?
Well, I see a few things. I see that the league actually doesn't have any rule against stealing signs. They do have the technology rule, right? Mm-hmm. But I also see the Yankees 3.5 games behind the Red Sox in September, and they're jockeying. If they do not win the title, they are really fighting for a wild card berth. There's a lot of teams, the Angels and others, that are right on their heels.
The Twins, who I grew up rooting for.
There has never been, even Major League Baseball came out with a statement today saying that it would be hard to prove that it affected the outcome of given games. And that, so I would doubt, I think that if you're the Yankees or if you're a New Yorker or if you want to make sure your team gets in, and I'm not saying that that's irresponsible reporting. I'm just saying that if I was in the Yankee organization, of course I would say that.
There's also been talk the Yankees would like to see wins
revoked.
Well,
that's ridiculous. Yeah. But if they don't come down with a legitimate penalty, not just a slap on the wrist, you've really opened yourself up here. Stealing signs in any sport is part of the gig. Nobody's arguing that in any sport, especially baseball, because that's why they're doing all this, so people can't steal signs. But it's very specific. You cannot put technology into play, because once you do, trust me, someone who played baseball, played all the way through college, Division I baseball.
Oh, I didn't know that about you. Where'd you play?
Temple.
Oh, very
okay,
cool.
So to see or to be tipped off every pitch on what is coming, whether it be off-speed pitch, whether it's high, outside, inside, whether it's a fastball, is an unbelievable advantage. It was explained to me this way. It's like taking the test and knowing the questions before you take the test.
We got to leave it there. Chris Collins, Dan Leibowitz, thank you both for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.